Hello, and thanks for joining us on Roadmap 2019. I am Ladi Akiridoluale. On this program, we talk to some of the major players in Nigeria's journey to the 2019 general elections. My guest on today's edition of the program says the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, still has some way to go if it is to convince that it will midwife a credible 2019 electoral process. My guest also says that the attempts by the executive arm of government, particularly at the federal level, to dominate the two other arms is the result of a poor understanding of constitutional provisions and democratic tenets. Now, please join us as we talk to the governor of Nigeria's Northwest state of Sokoto and former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Aminu Waziri Tambuwal. Your Excellency, thank you so much for your time. Welcome to Roadmap 2019.
Thank you very much, my brother.
Now, let me start from home, Sokoto, and then we'll now work our way to national issues. Very recently, your campaign was halted because there was an attack in one of your local government areas, and a number of lives were lost from there. I just want to find out, what is the situation with that now?
Well, thank you very much. The situation now in Gandhi district of Rabat local government is calm. We have deployed more security personnel, and more awareness is being, the campaign is going on that whenever you notice any movement that you suspect to be that of some of these bandits, you either report to the village chiefs or the village heads, or any security agent you're able to reach and get at. So for now, the situation is getting calmer and calmer.
Now, you mentioned bandits, which was going to be the next question I was going to ask. What was responsible for the situation, the incident?
I'm sure it will interest you to know that in the last 3.5 years, we've been under pressure from the flank of Zamfara flank of our border in Sokoto State, where we have Tureta local government, Rabat local government, Isa, Sabo Mini, Goronyo, and to some extent Kebi. And because of the pressure that the bandits were going through in Zamfara by the Nigerian security forces, they tend to veer off into spill over into Sokoto, and that was why we also tried as much as possible to improve on the security of those local governments over the years, and then unfortunately we've had 2 attacks so far.
Well, there are people who will of course say that all the attacks that were prevented, nobody gets to hear about those. It is only those that actually happen that people get to hear about. Yeah. But then that now takes me to the broader problem of security, which you in the course of this answer, you mentioned the fact that there is something happening in Zamfara as well, which is what is putting pressure on Sokoto. In these areas, Sokoto, Zamfara, Kebbi, we have been made to understand that it isn't the issue of herdsmen and farmers or anything like that. It's this issue of banditry, cattle rustlers, and so on. What is being done at the level of security? I know there are some things that you can't actually say because you need to keep them quiet for them to be effective. But what is being done between those 3 states and the federal government, if anything, in terms of cooperation to ensure that these bandits, because there are allegations that some of them actually come from outside the country, and then come far down into the states, which is why they are the way they are. I don't know if you can give us any light on that.
Well, first and foremost, when the banditry and kidnapping was becoming more and more serious in the axis of Brindangwari, Fagoe,
you're talking of Kaduna
State,
and then Kano.
We've had reasons as governors of the Northwest, minus Jigawa, but now with Niger, to be working together with the federal government to ensure that that problem was nipped in the bud. Unfortunately, we are not able to achieve exactly that objective. But with the collaboration between those states that I've mentioned, Sokoto, Kebbi, Zamfara, Kano, Katsina, Kaduna, and Niger, the governors came together. We met with Mr. President, and we met with the Chief Army Staff and some other service chiefs to work out modalities of nipping that problem in the bud. And that is why there was a joint operation, and it was co-funded initially by both the federal government and these states, who all contributed finances to ensuring that that challenge was addressed. Now, and then we continued with the issues of sharing of information, sharing of intelligence between the governors, between the peoples of these areas, with a view to addressing the challenge. So it's for us as state governments, basically what we've been doing is to share information with the security forces and to also collaborate amongst ourselves and, where necessary, fund the operations of the security services. And that's ongoing.
Now, Your Excellency, if we take a look at it, I mean, the way you've explained it, there's this collaboration going on. But if you take it vis-a-vis the fact that elections are due, do you have any fears that this may have any kind of impact on the conduct of the elections in your state and in this zone?
In Sokoto State, no. Because, as I said, it's not as if we have a permanent presence of these groups in Sokoto State. It's not as if they have established any colony, so to speak. So it's like a hit and run kind of operation. They are under pressure from them, they come in, hit and get back to their base. So we are not anticipating any kind of problem in Sokoto that will warrant or that will now impact negatively on the conduct of free, fair elections in Sokoto State. But of course, I would not want to speak for Zamfara, but the situation there is a bit more challenging than what we have in Sokoto.
If we take it more broadly, Your Excellency, and come to the northern zone now, and look at it from the viewpoint of security vis-a-vis the elections, do you entertain any fears? I mean, as one of the chief security officers of states.
Elections were held in Borno in 2015. Elections were held in Adamawa in 2015. Elections were held in Yobe in 2015. Our situation in the Northwest, as at today, is not as bad as any of those three states in 2015. So I don't see anything that will stop elections from being held in any of the states in the Northwest.
Now, broadly speaking, would you say there has been progress? I mean, you alluded now to 2015. In 2015, it would appear that the Boko Haram insurgency in the Northeast was at its height. I mean, the insurgents controlled some local governments in some of these states. But if what we are told now is correct, that is no longer the situation. But then we still keep hearing of these attacks and of people having to run away from their homes and so. Has the situation improved in your view between 2015 and now?
Well, realistically speaking, one must concede to the fact that there is an improvement. But then you also have to go back to the views of the leaders of those areas. The Sheikh of Borno recently came out to cry out loud, seeking for help, that Boko Haram is retaking back some of the liberated areas in Borno State. So we need to step up our game as a country, to ensure that the reasonable gains achieved were not reversed. And I can tell you from what we've been hearing, from what we've been reading, and even what we've been hearing in terms of intelligence and talking to some of our friends and brothers in Borno, Yobe, and in particular these two states, there is a kind of resurgence.
Yes, I mean, the governor of Borno was at the presidential villa a little while ago, and he burst into tears while he was talking to the president.
So clearly, that shows to you that there is a problem. There's a serious problem for the governor to be shedding tears, and I know him very well. He must have seen something very seriously. I mean, very serious that will warrant him to kind of, go to that extent of being emotional. So that is clearly some further, more challenges in Borno Yobe axis.
How do you think this could be addressed? How do you think this should be addressed? With your own knowledge, how do you think this should be addressed in terms of putting an end to some of these challenges once and for all?
Well, my brother, there's a need for our security forces to be more properly kitted, to have more firepower, to have their welfare being well taken care of. A situation whereby military officers or even mobile officers will come out and be demonstrating and demanding for their welfare, even when they are at kind of a war front, is really very, very alarming, is worrisome. So there is a need also for the security chiefs and the leadership to review their strategy. Clearly, what is being used is not working. And therefore, there is the need for a review of a security strategy in containing Boko Haram and the insurgency activities around Northeast. And obviously, it's what is spilling over to some parts of the rest of the country, in particular in the Northwest.
If we're to then move from there now and come to the politics. I started with the security because that's the environment. But then if we come now to the politics of it. In Sokoto State, you have been in the system for quite a while. You started off with the then APP or ANPP, what became ANPP, and then you moved on to the DPP, and then to the PDP, and then to the APC, and then back to the PDP. Why?
Well, I have always maintained this position, that our political parties in Nigeria are not ideologically driven. None of them, of all the political parties that we have in Nigeria, from the beginning especially of current democratic dispensation, 1999, till date, are based on any ideological leaning. At best, one can describe our political parties as conveyor belts, as platforms for realizing ambitions of individuals and groups. Otherwise, if you talk about political ideology of any of these, especially APC, PDP, as of today, you know that there are some people that are working together in APC that ordinarily do not have anything in common. There are people that are working together in PDP that ordinarily do not have anything in common. What is key and fundamental is, if you get elected, what do you do with the mandate given to you by the people? So it's not about ideological leanings of any of these political parties. So it's easy for someone like me, who believes in himself and the electability of my humble self, to move, if for any reason the power that be in political party that I belong are mounting roadblocks, and I am able to perceive that early enough, then I take my leave and then move to where I believe I can work with that team, get the ticket, get elected, and do what I believe is good for our people.
The government says no one is above the law, and that in spite of the fact that he is the Chief Justice, once he admitted to wrongdoing in the statement he made, that he forgot, he ought to have stepped aside for the integrity of the judiciary. At this point, as a lawyer, and from your resume, you've been several things within the NBA, a member of the body of benchers, and so. What do you think?
Well, I think it's all about the process. The Constitution is very clear on how to remove a judicial officer. And that is done, embedded in the Constitution, to further guarantee and engender separation of powers. That if you have anything against a judicial officer, first, take it to NJC. Let the NJC investigate, establish a prima facie case, or otherwise, And if it does, then begin the process of removal and prosecution. But here we are. Instead of that to be done, the president jumped the gun by saying that it's been directed by the CCT to now suspend him and then bring in an acting chief judge. Meanwhile, there is pendency of some other several suits in various courts on the same subject matter. And even a federal high court saying that, look, status quo ante be maintained. In any case, if Mr. President is in a hurry to obey and to respect court orders, what happens to the very many court orders that this administration has violated, that borders on freedoms of some individuals? Why are they not obeying those court orders? Why are they selecting and choosing which court order to obey?
But on this issue of the Chief Justice, there are those who are accusing the opposition, in this case the PDP, of hypocrisy. Because they said, your government, the PDP government before now, did virtually the same thing, especially when it came to the issue of the CBN governor. That when the law, again, the Constitution and the law stipulates that if you are to remove, or you want to remove the CBN governor, you've got to go to the National Assembly. He's one of the appointees.
Two wrongs don't make a right.
That's so you shouldn't be shouting now.
No. You're getting it wrong. Even if it was done by a government of PDP, then which I opposed, I opposed the removal of Sanusi Lamido Sanusi the way it was done. I remember I was in Ogun State and I spoke from Abeokuta against it. And I am still speaking against this one because two wrongs don't make a right. The fact that the PDP government of Goodluck Ebele Jonathan did it then does not legitimize or legalize President Muhammadu Buhari's action. All the more reason why we should be learning from our mistakes.
This is about the judiciary.
Yes.
But it brings me to the issue of the executive-legislature relationship.
Yeah.
Now, as a principal officer, former principal officer of the Assembly, and as a former member as well, what, in your view, is responsible for this? Because it's not about the current government. There has always been this executive-legislative face-off right from President Obasanjo. What's responsible?
Number one, interference.
From who now?
Executive trying to midwife leadership for either of the two chambers of the National Assembly. That is interference. If you allow a process whereby members of either of the two chambers of the National Assembly elect their their leadership, without interference, it may work easier for a takeoff. But from 1999, whether we like it or not, there were interferences. Interferences against Okadibo, and then which continued that made it almost, I think they had about 5 Senate presidents between 1999 and 2007. Now, so the issue of interfering in the process of elected leaders has always been a major issue. And also, the legislature is expected to police the executive. These are the laid out rules of engagement in terms of appropriation law, in terms of other laws. Now I'm talking about oversight. So if it is being detected that an executive part of the executive arm is not doing things correctly or as outlined or as prescribed by a given law, the legislature is expected to blow whistle and say, hey, stop. The way you are going is wrong. Normally, even in your private life, you find that you find someone trying to resist that kind of call to order. You understand? So it's from the foundation, it is not expected that the legislature and the executive should just work without some friction. There must be some bumpy situations, even from the concept itself of oversight. I'm coming to check whether you have complied, whether you have conformed with the rules or with the law. So the expectation is that there will be some friction, but it's all about management, how you are able to now understand each other after raising queries, after raising questions by the legislature, and then the response, the way and manner the executive respond to those questions or queries also help in ensuring that there is some understanding. But when their action is violent and completely resistant of an attempt to correct a situation, then you find the two sides clashing.
The issue of minimum wage. Mm-hmm. Right now, the bill is before the National Assembly.
Yeah.
But in the run-up to it, there were two arguments. The first largely came from governors, which was to say, if you want us to have a uniform national minimum wage, and we are saying that we are already having challenges, many states are having challenges even with the current minimum wage, then there has to be something else that has to be done, which is the review of the revenue sharing formula. Because our ability to pay is a major challenge. That's on the side of the governors. On the side of Labour, Labour says once an agreement has been reached on a particular figure, they are not moving. And until they get that figure, they will go after any governor or indeed any publicly elected official who opposes that figure. That's where things stand now. What's your own view about this minimum wage issue, especially given the fact that those who say it have said that even the newly agreed sum, which is 30,000, 27,000 for the states, coming from the National Council of State, which governors are members of, but which is still 5,000 naira more or thereabouts than what the governors said they could pay using the governors' forum. Where are we on that? What in your view is going to happen, given the fact that there are all these contending forces against this political background of elections?
See, first and foremost, the labor leaders, members of labor unions, are all Nigerians. And for those working with state government, they are the ones in charge of whatever comes to the state government. Whatever revenues, be them from federal allocation, from the IGR from the state, the civil servants who are members of the labor union are the ones responsible, at least for receiving those revenues. So it's clear, it should be clear to them whether it is achievable or not achievable. It's not as if out of sadism, one will not support a situation whereby your fellow person, your fellow human being, your brother, your sister, because after all, we're all brothers and sisters, should not get better pay. We agree, you get better pay, improved pay. How do we fund it? That was the only counter-argument where governors were saying, please, Mr. President, we're all agreeing to increase and review upward of minimum wage. But then, look at the other side. You take the larger chunk, about 54% of the resources. What is your wage bill? In Sokoto State, in the state service, we have about 28,000 workers. In the local government service, we have about 58,000 workers. If you look on the average of what makes the services of various states and put them together and compare them with that of the federal government, states and local government, how many are they? Even on that basis alone, that's why we're saying we are agreeing, we want it, we support it, but give us more resources to be able to fund it. We're not averse to it. And the opinion at the Council of State, even though I wasn't there, is presumably the opinion of the majority, even if there were those who possibly opposed it. I have not been briefed as to whether there was anybody who opposed it. So that goes to show to you that governors were not opposed to it because they are a majority in Council of State. Governors are a majority in Council of State. So there was no tyranny of numbers. They didn't gang up against it and kill it at the Council of State. How many former heads do we have? How many former chief justices do we have? And who are the various members of the Council of State? It's largely populated by governors. So it's not about governors opposing it. It's about how to achieve it. Let's all work together, reason together on how to achieve it. I am for it, I support it. I told my labor leaders when they came here that I'm for it. After all, if you review minimum wage, and if there's any increase, it will also affect my own well-being. So even for self-enlightened interest, one should support anything that will make his pay go higher. But then, it's the question of management of resources. In Sokoto, our IGR has never been up to 1 billion since I came in. 1 billion. What's our wage bill? What do we receive from the center? How about other services? So these are the arguments. So I assure you that governors are not, as being projected, opposed to minimum wage being reviewed upwards. No. The only concern is how do we, this one, we are not being able to pay. Some states are still owing salaries. Now, if you increase it, how are we going to get the resources to pay?
Your Excellency, it's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.